Everything is personal right here. Everything is personal right here.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Everything is Personal. And today our guest is Morgan DeNicola. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm ready for this.
All right. It's going to be a tough one. So, get prepared. I was wondering, I was reading, I don't know if this is something that you said or wrote, but I'm going to paraphrase. I'm not quoting, but you talked about having different opinions and having discourse and conversation can actually lead to a lot of positive change. And I was wondering where your thoughts are on today's climate. Can we actually have a difference of opinion and have an intelligent conversation where people can learn from each other? Or are we in the culture where we have a huge divide between us and people on this side are shouting and people on this side, and it's really difficult for us to have that type of conversation?
I think the individuals who have self-control, now this is going to sound wild, but if you have that self-control of, I'm going to listen, I'm going to actually listen to what somebody has to say, you can have these really great conversations that you can grow from, that you can gain so much perspective from another person and build friendships. But you have to start in that that seat. A lot of people like to say, I give respect if I get respect. And that's bull. I'm sorry, but somebody has to start that. Yeah. So me personally, I know myself, and I feel like self-control is such a strength that I welcome having a conversation with people whose opinions differ, because I view it as an opportunity to learn a perspective, to learn. It's such a learning opportunity. And I have so much confidence in my foundation and how I feel that even if somebody comes along and says the opposite, I'm not shook to my core to the point that I feel like I need to react. I think we have the ability to do this if people can just calm down and have the confidence in themselves to actually listen to another human being and know when you do that, there's potential for you to actually succeed and learn something else about you. So you can still take it from that almost selfish perspective. Let's just say it. But I think that we have the ability to do it. It just takes somebody doing it first.
Yeah, it's a great perspective. It aligns with having emotional intelligence and then having empathy as well. And I think you said something that I want to highlight. You talked about you and having this confidence, right? So if you're leading with ego every single time that you engage with somebody, you're not even listening to the feedback. You're already hurt because you feel less than because somebody's putting you down. And by somebody having a difference of opinion doesn't change the way I feel about myself. But how do we get people to a point where they're practicing their emotional intelligence so you can actually have, them be available to those kind of conversations?
I think people need to start emphasizing the fact that that's strength. I think a lot of people that think that combative way of being is how you prove that you are strong and you are morally sound. And that's not it. Strength comes from your ability to relate, and strength comes from your ability to be empathetic and listen to one another. That is the true strength. You can't just scream at another person. And you have to also understand that whatever point it is that you're trying to make, whether or not you say it's from a place of morality or from a place of experience, whatever it is, you have to have this understanding that nobody's going to hear you if you come at it from a place of aggression. Nobody will ever hear the point that it is that you want to make if you come at them like, I know better. Now, if you come at a person from a standpoint of curiosity, understanding, a willingness to listen. At no point are you shook, or at no point are you feeling attacked. But hey, you know what? I don't agree with you, but this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity. That is the absolute strongest thing that you can do. And I think once we emphasize that that is the true strength, and not the screaming, and that is how you create change, and people start seeing it slowly over time, that's when you're going to start to see this divide kind of come back together. But I think we also have to understand that there's a large group on this side and there's a large group on this side. Clearly, there's something going on. If it's it's not a small percentage of people doing this or that. It's half and half, which makes you think that these both sides need to be heard. It's the other side of the coin. In order for the coin to exist, there needs to be both sides. So I think we have to start emphasizing that and having this understanding that you can't necessarily say right or wrong or this or that. It's both if both exist.
Yeah, and you know, you have a background in diplomacy and philanthropy. I want to get into. So you actually have hands-on experience with a lot of this stuff. That's why I want to, like, you know, kind of pick your brain and see. Not trying to solve the world's problems here, but I'm trying to figure out a path forward, because right now it's not working, and it hasn't been working for a long time. And I think things that happen in the world, like COVID, that is a huge thing that's got dropped on our lap, and it's like that little divide it's like an earthquake that shook us all and said, nah, now there's a big, sort of barrier between the two sides. But before I get into that, I want to talk about your origin story, because I find it interesting and fascinating. Where did you grow up?
I actually grew up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. So half of my adolescence was the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, you know.
By the way, I lived in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, in Holland Richboro area. I'm from Philly originally. Go Birds.
Newtown, go Birds. Yeah, so I grew up there, and then my parents, they're serial entrepreneurs, started doing pretty well. And they were like, now we're moving into Philadelphia. I did not want to do it. And so I went from the middle of nowhere, Newtown, Bucks County, to Center City, Philadelphia. I went from a public school to a private school. So I got both sides of that interesting education, polarized both sides. And then from there, I went to college, Long Island University. I studied sociology and to be a special education teacher. Realized I did not want to be an education teacher. Did a gauntlet of strange jobs out in Long Island, and then decided to come back home to be an active aunt, where I rejoined my family businesses. So I started to learn a whole lot about all different types of businesses. And through the course of that, I realized I was not meant for the business world. Went back to school to become a vet tech. And then I ended up realizing that my true calling was in giving back and relating to people.
Can I don't mean to interrupt. I just want to go back to the origin story, because I want to get an understanding, because you glossed over a couple of things. First of all, were your parents together, and do you have siblings?
Yeah, my parents are still together, and I have an older brother, who me and him have been from the beginning, two peas in a pod, and he's been wonderful. But he taught me to be like tough, you know, beating up his kid's sister, but I beat back. And yeah, and he has two great kids, so very active aunt. And yeah, my parents are still together, still in the business world and the philanthropy world. Yeah, my mom retired, but my dad and me work very much hand in hand in everything.
So when you were growing up, and I know you transitioned from, like, Bucks County, Pennsylvania, to Center City, which is, I did the opposite migration. I grew up in Northeast and went to high school in North Philly, went to Temple University in North Philly. So, and then when I, met my girlfriend, ex-wife before we got married, but got a house in Bucks County. So I moved to the burbs after the fact. But growing up as a kid, what were your interests? Were you into sports? Were you into writing? Were you into math? Like, what were you into?
I was definitely into sports. I did a lot with basketball, field hockey, but I was also a very quiet kid until high school, until I switched high schools. Actually, I was a little quiet. I was awkward. I was a little weird, definitely. Well, I was considered weird in that world, but then I went into the city and I was considered eclectic. So then it became, I kind of came out of my shell when I was in that different environment that kind of liked that. And so then I switched schools, and then in the other school that I went to, I was in stage and tech, captain of the field hockey team, captain of the basketball team, poetry club. I kind of did it all in that school.
Yeah, so both sides, like art and sports.
Yeah, but I wasn't like a straight A student. I wasn't a very, I was more of there for, I did a lot of more of the social.
Yeah.
I was a very social kid at my junior
Okay.
and senior year.
So when you're business wise, when you made a decision and you went to school and you decided maybe I'll come back and join business, what in business did you enjoy that connected with you? And what were the things in business that you said, this isn't really for me? Like, is it a type of business, or is it with certain things in the entrepreneurial kind of realm?
I didn't like sales. I didn't like trying to sell things because I always found myself being like, I don't know why I have to convince somebody to want this. I do now, in a sense, do that in the philanthropic world, but I really feel passion behind me wanting to try to get donors. So to me, it's different, but it is kind of similar. But I really admired my parents and their ability to lead, but I didn't at the time think that that would ever be me. And so I felt lost in that world of consumerism, even if it was good things. Like we were in mobile technology and healthcare. So it was like beneficial to people. It wasn't like we were just trying to sell a pen or, something like that. What we were doing was really had positive impact. But I just couldn't wrap my brain around trying to convince somebody to buy it. And I went into marketing, and even then, because I liked trying to be clever and creative, but I just couldn't find that fire behind wanting to do it.
Yeah.
But I was able to learn a lot about the way people think and about what really makes a good leader, and what it really means to love and protect the people you worked with. My family was very much about that.
Yeah. You said something, and I'm just trying to connect the dots. It's really interesting. There's a notion of, yes, the company is doing good things and you're learning, but the passion is not connecting to your own purpose. Because, and you said the right thing. Like, I used to coach sales, like large sales teams. And it's interesting because some people can sell anything. However, or if you're actually helping people remove their own obstacles of why they are trying to block of not doing something, that's really what sales is about, if you're doing the right thing. But if you don't have a personal connection to the quote unquote why are you doing this, it's not connected to your purpose. So it makes it difficult. And people pick up on that energy, and having the same exact technique than you may have learned, but now having an actual purpose, the big why. Why am I doing this? It's just so much easier. The steps are the same, but it's a different kind of connection. So how did you transition into your path to philanthropy and diplomacy and all these other things. You have a wonderful picture behind you on the desk, and you've traveled the world doing these things. I want to kind of dive into that part of how did you start working on what you're doing today and what you've been doing for the last whatever many years?
When I was in marketing, my dad was starting to branch out and be on different boards, and he was invited to go to Africa, and he was like, I can't go to Africa. I'm running, these businesses. And he said, I would like you to go. And what am I going to do in Africa? And he was like, just go and listen and learn.
Mm.
So I went on this trip that was there to bring people to this orphanage to learn about the orphanage, where the kids, either their parents died of AIDS or they themselves have AIDS. And the villagers kept wanting to take the kids back out of the orphanage. They didn't understand why the kids were there and getting this education. They wanted them to marry and go, into work, but the orphanage was trying to educate. And I mean, this education system was wild. They were learning 3 different languages. They were learning computing, cooking, mathematics, science. Like, their curriculum blows ours out of the water, what they were learning there. And then we took the individuals that we had brought to the government, and the government, we were trying to kind of come up with a strategy for how they could communicate to these villages that this is good, and the kids were going to go back. The kids go back to their villages once they get this education. And I found it so fascinating, the necessity for this communication and the different cultural ideals and ideas. So I was like, okay, that kind of has my curiosity. I ended up becoming this sponge. And then there was one interaction with one little girl. She was there. She was about 2 years old, and she just looked so sad. And I said to the people who were running the orphan, like, what's her story? And they said, her name's Comfort, and she hasn't smiled since she's been here. And, she has HIV. And I picked her up. Like, I didn't even think. I reacted. And I picked her up and held her in my arms. And she's staring at my hair. And I'm like, why is she staring at my hair? And then I kind of put it together. She hasn't seen blonde hair. So I took my hair down and kind of rubbed it on her face, and she smiled. And it was like that moment that she saw me and I saw her. And we both felt alive and happiness and a connection that went beyond a language, that went beyond an understanding of a background. It didn't matter in that moment, that it was so pure and so beautiful that I went home a completely different person. And I said to my family, business is not for me. I need to find a way to give more to the world. That was that moment that I felt that fire and that passion. And it was so amazing that I was like, it's almost like a high. Like, I need to chase this. I need to follow this no matter where it goes. And I'm so lucky that after a few months of me trying to figure out how to do it, I got a text message from my family, and they were like, we need you to come over. And I was like, oh, great. I'm going to get yelled at or something, And I go over there, and they're like, you made us realize, this is your joy. This is your passion. This is what you want. And we've been so blessed. And they had always been charitable, always giving to family, to the different communities. My parents have always been charitable. They were like, we've been so successful. We want to create a charity. So it started out as a little charity and kind of followed my dad around.
Was the focus of the charity HIV? Was that because
No.
of listeners? It was just.
It was local Philadelphia, food pantries and backpacks. And, like, it started out very small, very humble. And then we started meeting more and more individuals and making these connections, and realized we had this ability to now elevate to become a family foundation. And so we built a family foundation, and my family was like, you're a sponge, you're really learning, you're incorporating everything. And I just couldn't get enough of hearing different perspectives and the different ways people were doing it, and kind of creating our own way along the way. And they said, we want you to take this over. This is yours. Like I said, I still work very closely with my father. We still educate each other, but we come at things from different perspectives. He's a serial entrepreneur, a businessman, a very successful one. And then I come at it from more of that philanthropic, even governments, different cultures. So we meet in the middle, and we've created something very unique, and very engaging and inclusive.
Mhm. So, when you say inclusive, what is there a certain focus of the foundation now, and it is a lot of it or any of it diplomacy, and then you're also, as you expand, you're also not just talking to businesses and donors that you have to fund the foundation, etc., but you're also talking to leaders, government leaders, and people in different countries and states and cities and all that. How like how does that differ when having a conversation with, maybe a Bill Clinton, or versus, the guys in Philly who are running a trucking company or something like that?
Well, we do still have our passions. So we have conservation. Obviously, it's really important to focus on our environment around us. It feeds us. It is where we live. It is, has everything to do with what we do. So it's conservation, global health. If you don't have a healthy body, healthy mind, you're not really contributing to the variability in any way. And everybody should have an opportunity to live a healthy life. So we have global health. And then we have humanitarian recognition. Right now, we have a humanitarian award that we give out to NFL players, front staff, and the Super Bowl city. We have this really cool relationship with the NFL, but we're growing into sciences and healthcare. We're actually also starting one for young kids in grade school that are finding their niche and giving back to their communities to try to encourage that. And then comes cultural diplomacy, which is definitely something I'm the most engaged and passionate about. But the funny thing about that is when you turn off cameras, when you get outside of sessions with different government groups or different individuals in politics or even that run companies, people are so similar. Their wants, their needs, the way they act is so similar. And when a person feels comfortable to share themselves with you, and that means you have to be diplomatic, you learn so much more about them and their needs and their passions. So you're able to create this incredible network, and you're able to create programs that benefit everybody that they're passionate about as well. But in order to do that and make those connections, you have to treat everybody the same. And you have to be a soundboard for somebody to come to and let you see them with their hair down, so to speak, and for them to be comfortable and know that you're going to be a friend in a sense to them and whatever they say and kind of whatever they're passionate about. And so like the truck drivers in Philly, honestly, are kind of the same as, Bill when he was just kind of hanging out and we caught him at the end of, something that was really emotional and he clearly needed a break. And it's the same thing with the members of Congress and the Senate. They're very human. They're human beings that have the same wants and the same needs. And when you address everybody that way, it's just amazing the connections that you can make. So that's what I'm the most passionate about, because I think that the crossovers, even with the different cultures, it's very similar. It's all so similar, and it's also interconnected.
Yeah, I want you to define cultural diplomacy for people that may not know. But before I do that, you sparked a memory. So I was nominated as a lobbyist for the Real Estate Association at one point for Pennsylvania, and so I had to go to lobby. It was I think it was Patrick Murphy and Arlen Specter. And it's the time that Arlen Specter switched. All of a sudden, he's a Democrat. He's not the staunch Republican who led the Warren Commission. And this whole interaction was just like, it seems like mask on, mask off, what you're saying. So when we're engaging, it's like political speak. Oh, my constituents and, my voting record and blah, blah, blah. And I went downstairs to where they have, their lunch. I see all these people sitting together. They're like acting out on TV that they're mad at each other, fighting, but they're hanging out, normally having conversations, normally eating. And it just, I wish that we could have this more, like, politicians would be much more relatable that way. With the camera on and with this theater facade that they have to put on, I think that we need to figure out a way. And maybe that's one of the reasons, I'm not a political person. Maybe that's one of the reasons why Trump appeals to many people, because even though he's obviously financially not on the same level as like the average Joe off the street, but the way that he speaks is relatable to the average person, because he's like, he must be one of us, kind of thing. And I wish that, more people would be able to drop this facade. I used to do like consulting for a Pricewaterhouse, PwC. There's a class they have to teach you the consulting speak. Like, there's a certain way to speak. And I was like, in real life and real business, not the consult, but real businesses, like, people want to talk to the individual. You want to relate to the person. So I was wondering, like, how do we get this mask off so you can actually connect to a person on an individual basis? Because you're actually speaking to these people and you're having these conversations, and that's the way you relate to anybody, as you just mentioned. But can we get the mask off some way?
Not in a sense right now, no, because that's what people are voting for. So they're fulfilling their job. So if you're voted into whatever position it is for your stance on this, that, or the other thing, that is what they're going to show. Because like anybody who has a job that is hired for a specific reason, you're going to be that specific reason. You're going to fulfill that specific reason. And people are voting. It's kind of like the squeaky wheel gets the oil. Yeah. People are voting for the entertainment, the loudness, the extremism, a lot of the time. So they fill what their job is to fill what the people want and to fill what people are asking for. So if people could just be reasonable in our requests, and like I like to say that it's so tough for me to identify as Republican or Democrat, because I believe in situational governments.
Right.
And if we could all just believe it depends on the situation and start nominating people who say it depends on the situation, they would be more like that. But they're answering to what the public is asking for. And that's why you're seeing that polarization, is we just kind of keep getting more and more extreme because we want this pendulum to swing back and forth. And the truth is the only way you get things done, so it depends on the situation, and it involves listening and reasoning and critical thinking depending on the situation. But the good news is a lot, despite what we see on TV, which has become an entertainment thing, despite what we see, the conversations you hear behind closed doors are very thought-provoking and are very articulate, and also that way of speaking is kind of necessary when you deal with different cultures. That's where it kind of comes in, because that way of speaking is more able to be understood when you engage with somebody from a different viewpoint or a different place in the world.
Yeah, there are perceived rules of engagement that are not said but understood between parties, no matter where you go and travel. And then afterwards, you go out and drink a beer with somebody, and then you have a completely different conversation.
And remember that people are human, and people are able to change their mind, and they're fallible, and they're human beings. And I think we kind of have to get back to that point of like they're human beings, and
we hold people to a different standard. And I think that's our own expectations is what is not being met, and that's why our anger comes out because we have expectations that are unreasonable. Once again, so I don't forget, cultural diplomacy. How do you define that?
It's embracing different cultures and utilizing them to accomplish similar goals, and putting your own self and perspectives off, like it goes above yourself. It is beyond your belief structure and your belief system. So it's encompassing all and has kind of, I don't want to say nothing to do with you because you are part of that culture, but it is beyond you. It's for a greater good.
Man, it's a really interesting definition of that. Uh, I think it's beyond you, but including you, but beyond you. Yeah, yeah. I can definitely see that. I want to go back and define, because I think we started jumping into the foundation of philanthropy, but what does a foundation actually do? Like, I think your role is twofold. Like, you have to get and then you have to give, right? So maybe you can kind of explain to people what that is that you actually have to do with a foundation.
Well, we hear needs. So on the regular basis, we will see what the community needs, or they reach out to us. And by community, it could be local, it could be global. We're a place for anybody to really go and vocalize a need. We see if it's something that we can have a sustainable and positive impact on. So we then say, okay, this is something we can be a part of because we either financially can, or we like to procure items more. So if it's backpacks, food, clothing, whatever it might be, okay, we can do this. And then we say, okay, how can we then stretch our impact? That's then going and getting other people engaged. And how you do that is have a unique idea or perspective on how you can remedy the situation and want to get the rest of the world engaged in what it is you're doing. So it's funding yourself,
Yeah.
but also seeing who else you can get kind of to be part of your team and excited about the idea of giving. So
So
it's
sometimes working with strategic partners, like you mentioned the
absolutely.
NFL, say, or can you donate or can you provide or something that for this cause, and it's having, people to participate with you kind of thing.
Absolutely. And it could be anything. It could be time, it could be connections, it could be ideas.
Got it. You worked with the U.S. Congress, UN delegation, and you sort of took, and correct me if I'm wrong, you also led some of these delegations to different countries and stuff. Is there a big difference between working with like UN delegations to these countries and the U.S. congressional delegations?
Well, a lot of the embassies are US embassies in foreign countries.
Got it. Got it.
So it is the US that fulfills the grants. So it's approved by the United States, but they bring you over to then have an understanding of the culture in which that UN sits. So then you also speak to their government. So it's held by the United States, but it's then hearing what their needs are in the other country.
Mhm.
And it's helping make these suggestions or hearing needs and solutions. It's not just hearing needs. A lot of these cultural delegations, people are like, oh, they just want our money. That's a big thing. No, sometimes they have insight to problems and have created these incredible solutions to problems we are facing. And it's up to us to hear, oh, wow, like you came up with that solution. We wonder if we could bring that over to the United States and use that as a solution to a current problem we are having. It's not always like people hear these things and think that it's us just constantly giving. There are things that we take out of this that really help us evolve as well.
So did you lead or go with a delegation to China as well?
Um, there was no delegation in China.
Okay.
The China trip was actually about using technology in environment for conservation.
Yeah.
So it was a technology, but there were no, yeah, that one had no government.
So
at
you
that.
went on behalf of the foundation to see if there was any technological advancements that you can bring back to the foundation to utilize for a need that you identified within your core disciplines that you want to focus on, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's highlighting how technology can actually help us overcome a lot of these environmental issues.
So I wanted, it's so interesting to me because China is a huge polluter of the world. However, the juxtaposition is that they have some of the most advanced technologies. So I'm trying to wrap my mind around that because I was in India too, and I saw some of the same kind of thing. So you're doing this stuff, but you also are polluting, and then you're creating this technology. And then, so two-part question is, how does that work within China in this whole government controlled kind of even the businesses are government controlled, and then how can you utilize some of those technologies? What were some of those technologies that you can bring back and learn from China as well?
Well, I can't comment on what their government's doing because, like I said, that wasn't a government one. The groups that were there were all groups that were concerned with issues with the environment. So there were businesses there,
Mm-hmm.
but they weren't really. They were again trying to learn, in a sense, even how to invest in the development of some of these technologies that could be used for conservation. So a lot of it was like drones, it was photography of like really monitoring and watching either things degrade or how you can stop it from happening and notice it. But I guess then the twofold part is, what are you willing to do if you notice it? Now, that's not, you have to know what your mission is and where to kind of step away. And I can comment on pollution and things like that, but that wasn't why I was there. I was there to identify solutions
Right.
to issues, not where the issues come from. We'd be here all day.
Yeah, no, I get it.
So it's always important when you're in those situations, as much as you do get emotional and you do get wrapped up and you're like, oh my God, like we're chasing our tails. You have to remember why you're there.
Yeah.
Calm down and be a part of the solution and not commenting on really where the issue is. That's another person's job.
Focus on the mission at hand. I got you.
Or you'll drive yourself crazy, you really.
Well, yeah, that's why I was asking the question, because it's same thing. Like I said, I wasn't in China, but I was in India, and I'm not saying it's the same, but geographically and very similar in terms of there's so many technological advancements that they're going out of the country and they're being used elsewhere. And then there's poverty and pollution. And I mean, some of the, some of the poorest people that I've seen, and so the conditions that I've seen. And like a quick story. So there was a guy, I went to meet the CEO of this company, and there was a 2-story building. And as we're driving, people are carrying bricks on their heads, women are building bridges with pulleys and all that stuff. And there's a guy in the elevator. It's a 2-story building, a little guy, and his job all day is to push like 1 and 2. And then I go and see Lakshmi, this guy, and he's showing me a model of the house that he's building on the beach. And it's like this beautiful mansion. And it was just like, my mind was getting blown. And he goes, don't worry, we're getting heavy machinery and equipment. We're not going to build this with pulleys and all that stuff. So he was making a joke. And I was like, okay, well, that's great. But you got a guy in the elevator, it's pressing buttons. You have these people. And he said to me, he said, we have a billion people, whatever. We have to find work for everybody. And the guy that's pressing the button in the elevator, he's of this caste or whatever it is, he would be on the street. We gave him a $1 to do this, which is something he can feed his family. And that way, with my American mindset going over there, and it's like, what do you mean there's a guy in the elevator? You can do this? No, you don't have to do it. If you use machinery, you use equipment, you're going to put people out of a job. And that's what we need to kind of relate to. And that's what you were talking about, this ability to relate to other cultures, because we don't have to instill our mindset into them.
And we also have to listen. I think a lot of the times we go to these places and we're like, oh, we can solve this, but we're solving it with our own cultural background or ethical background. When we don't, it's so important when you go places to listen to what it is they want and not to overstep. Even if you think you can do it better or differently, you don't know the long term, you don't know the cultural structure, you don't know the long-term effects. If you were to say, oh, I could resolve, who gets hurt by that? And also what that might change that they don't want to change. And I think that's the big part of that we forget, is to listen to what is really being said and what the real issue that whoever it was actually wants resolved.
Yeah.
And everything else just kind of, putting it on to the side.
You talked about, I'm gonna probably mess this up, but tell me if I'm wrong. Philanthropy and mental health, and you mentioned this swinging pendulum effect, if I'm right. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? What you mean about that?
In philanthropy, you can feel very good about helping people. You can accomplish so many good feats, but in the process of everything you accomplish, you uncover another issue and you uncover another need, and you realize that it is a never ending process when you want to help people or resolve these issues. It doesn't end. So as much as you get these highs from helping people, you can get severely depressed because you'll say, what am I doing? I'm not really helping anybody. And there's more and more and more issues, and I had to say no to this person, and I don't know what's going to happen in that sense. And you become, it can get very, very, very dark, and you can get very depressed. And that was the issue I first had in getting into the world of philanthropy. I became incredibly depressed. And it took a lot of different individuals having these conversations but you have to program yourself to focus on the things that you do. Because if you get lost in this is never ending, you'll give up that hope but you are helping people. So you may not change the world, but you can change the world for one person.
Yeah, you can only
And
control
that is where it's at. Like, that's how you can overcome a lot. But it's like police officers,
Yeah.
people who work in hospitals, people who are firefighters, a lot of first responders, they deal with it because it doesn't matter how many people they help or what they do. The next day, it's the same thing. So it creates this incredible burnout. And, a lot of people need that help and that reminder, because sometimes your light does go out and you need the community to kind of come back and say, no, 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 you're a light, you're a fire, and you got this, and look what you did here. And you need those reminders, or the world can become a very dark place, even though you're trying to be a light.
How did you and how do you deal with that stress and anxiety and some of the mental health challenges that come up, especially, and you're absolutely right. I mean, I deal with a lot of veterans in my primary business, and athletes and first responders, and it's I could have, but it's the notion of celebrating what you actually achieved and not focusing what you didn't, which is really hard. It's even in business. If you have your to-do list, I used to like beat myself up. Oh shit, I didn't finish this task or that task, instead of saying, man, I accomplished one thing today. Wow, pat myself in the back. Good job, but we get drained by this. So what are some of the tools and methods that you have today to deal with that?
I think it's knowing yourself first. It's knowing when you're starting to approach that, oh man, like I'm starting to feel sad. Like I'm starting to feel tired. And it's really being in tune with yourself with that and knowing the tiniest things that make you happy. For me, I need to meditate when I start getting overwhelmed. I need to quiet everything, which includes disconnecting from the computer, the news, my phone, social media. You have to, because it gets so loud and you need to quiet everything. And that's a great way to kind of reset and also kind of like, everybody's different religions and spirituality, but I think that's a moment where I can kind of talk to my higher self and hear that, okay, you need to take a minute. But I think it's also so important, and we forget this, but to continue to take care of our physical health, walking, getting out, fresh air, and eating decent meals. And making sure you have the proper amount of nutrients, because that's really going to contribute to making sure your immune system, because when you get sad, what happens to your immune system? Just goes downhill. You get sick, you feel crummy. So when I start to kind of take that dive, I start to reflect, okay, what am I eating? Did I get outside for a walk? Did I get on the treadmill? Okay. Did I meditate? Better do that. And finding the time for me. I love a bubble bath, just resetting, and just every day. I love the practice of gratitude. And I was very, very much taught this with dealing with my issues of anxiety and depression, of like taking every day and starting to list 5 things, tiny things, like go tiny. I'm talking like, I love the smell of a lemon. It's a really strange thing to say, but I love the smell of a lemon. And starting to list those little things, because when you get in that dark place, those little things, you're reminded there's good in this world. And then having your buddies. I know that even when I'm super sad, I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to. And I have to force myself to be like, no, you need to get out and remind yourself of why it is you're doing what you're doing. And the only way you can remind yourself why it is you're doing what you're doing is to be around people. And even when you're at that point that you're like, ugh, people, you need to still go out and I'm not saying in like a concert hall, but like have your handful of buddies that don't want to ask you what's wrong. Don't do that. No. But completely distract you from what it is that's wrong. Like, hey, let's go eat something weird.
Yeah.
Let's go do something that's completely different and distract you from whatever it is. So it's having your group and knowing yourself and taking the steps to really, really take care of you.
Yeah, you're in having your own sense of community, I think it is important. Your go-to people. I was wondering, people are looking to help other people, but they don't know what to do. They don't know where to start. So I know people like, maybe I can donate to somewhere, but what would be some advice that you would give to somebody that says, you know what, I want to start helping people. What can I actually do? And where do I know, if I'm just giving money, I don't have money, maybe I can lend my time. Where do you suggest somebody starts?
Start with knowing what makes you happy. So what is it that makes you incredibly happy? Because you need to light up whenever you do whatever it is you do. You need to light up. So you can go with the basics and say like food insecurity is such a rampant issue, but it goes beyond that. It's so you like music. I see all the music, right?
We'll get into some music in a little bit.
So it's then, okay, how can I use something that lights me up, music, to help my local community? That's a Google search. This is crazy. This is when technology is so beneficial, and you can start looking at small groups that are doing some really cool outreach programs. Oh, look, this music for an after school program that could help children kind of stay out of trouble, or donating my used records to wherever, a retirement home, or volunteering
Well, here I have an idea. Actually, you just made me think of something. So if anybody's listening, because I'm in LA, I live in LA, and we had all these fires. I know so many people. I actually did this the other day. I know so many people that lost their record collections. They burn out. So if you have even doubles or not, or your records, maybe these are the ones I don't listen to as much. If you can donate them to an organization that can give them to the people that lost their records in the fire, that's a great, you made me think of something. So yeah, there you go. I think it's great.
And then that you light up when you do that. That makes somebody else light up. That encourages them to have a good day and that there is a moment of hope. And then that kind of keeps going. It doesn't always have to be money. It doesn't always have to be something that you are kind of spoon-fed. Get creative on what makes you happy, because that's where the fire starts. That's where it becomes contagious, and that's where people want to join you in whatever it is that you're doing. And it could also be you coming up with an idea or helping a group that's already doing something and you saying, you know what, I have this idea on how to do it a little different, and giving your ideas and your time. It's being philanthropic or charitable starts at home, and it starts with your passion. That's where it's at, and that's where you're going to get a lot of people to really want to be a part of it, and you're going to get joy out of it.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing. When you were talking about selfish, I mean, like, so what? I was having a conversation with somebody like Tony Robbins was talking about, like, I do this thing, but I get back. I give, I get back, and that cycle of energy. Yeah, it's selfish because I feel great, but this is where we tend to lose inspiration and lack of motivation, because this one-on-one exchange like you had with the little girl that had your hair, you have a one-on-one, oh my God, you can feel it and it's wonderful. But as you grow and you lose that connection to the individuals. So my company does genetic testing, all kinds of different things for healthcare. And at first, like, I started this because I love the one-on-one, and I love to gain the feedback of this really helped my family, this helped my dog. But when you're running a company, you lose that connection. So getting back, and I was in Brazil, and there was a line of people standing there. I could actually talk to the people that we've impacted, and it reignited the fire again. So how do you stay motivated when you elevate yourself above maybe above isn't the right terminology, but away from having that one-on-one connection with the little girl? How do you continue to stay motivated and inspired, because you're missing that connection to your purpose? You're not getting that instantaneous feedback, I guess.
Well, I don't do anything that I don't. So I think that's kind of a big thing, is even if I can't be there, well, our big thing is boots on the ground. If it's not me, then it's my dad or it's my coworker. And if I can't be there, somebody's going to be there. And if we can't be there, somebody we know is going to be there and is going to send us the pictures and the testimonials, and we're going to read those. And we're never going to lose that, because that's not what we're about. We don't want to be so big that we lose. I like to say the human and humanitarian work. I will never lose that, because that is what drives me. And I think that that's what makes us inspiring for other people. So for us, we don't, there are a few times that we can't be there across the globe. But like I said, we have somebody there that is engaged, that is touching, that is, and they stay in very close contact with us. But it's so rare that we do it and we're not there. That's only on a rare occasion. And normally I'm trying to be there, but something comes up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we make sure that we're a part of it, or somebody we know is a part of it. It has to stay that way, or what do you really? It's about the connectivity. It's about us being together as a society, and us all being global citizens. That's the reason you do what it is you do.
Yeah. Any exciting projects coming up for the Danakola Family Foundation Fund? And anything new on the horizon?
Well, next week we start the Rising Star Humanitarian Award for the grade schoolers. We're just starting it, but I'm so excited to start encouraging the youth to know what they're doing is good and that they're noticed and encouraged to even think that way. I'm so thrilled with that. But we're also building a community center in Italy that is actually in the town my grandfather grew up in, which is kind of super cool. That's going to help not only give the younger kids a place to, learn techniques with computers, but it's also going to be a place for the older generations to utilize as however they want to utilize it, and gives them a community space. And I'm really excited about that. And we're working on the Humanitarian Awards for the sciences and healthcare, and starting to recognize different individuals that spend their lives just trying to help people and contribute. I'm there's so many. There's we're even doing a Father's Day readathon with a local writer that writes his own books. That's it's small and it's cute and it's great to encourage them to get out there and read with their dads. So there's big things and there's small things that I'm really excited for, and gonna keep it small and keep it big.
Love
So you
it.
gotta have both.
I love that whole I love that whole notion of the boots in the ground kind of thing, because you stay connected. Because I went through it myself, and that's when you start questioning, is like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? It's so much work. Why am I doing this? I don't have to do this. And then you get somebody that says, my daughter didn't is on the spectrum, wasn't walking, wasn't speaking, wasn't anything, and then by whatever you did, this is her, and this is my. I mean, these are the connections, and it makes you remember, why you're doing this in the first place. I think it's a wonderful thing, because too many foundations, nonprofits, they've created layers between them and the people that they actually help. And so I think it's a wonderful thing that you're doing.
I don't think it's an intentional thing. I think the need is so great, and you want to just help so many people that you get lost. Sometimes it's intentional, and other times I think that you just want to keep giving. But our point is as much as there is a need, it's to be a part of it. Absolutely, it's what keeps us going.
Cool. So I have some music questions for you.
Oh, okay.
That'll be fun. So do you remember, and if so, what was the very first concert that you attended?
I believe it was Billy Joel with my parents.
That's
I
cool.
think it was Billy Joel. Yeah.
At the Spectrum?
Oh, God. Yeah. Yeah. Way back when it was the Spectrum. Yeah. I was very little and didn't understand any of the music, but my parents were super excited. Yeah. It was Billy Joel.
What was the last concert you attended?
Muse. Oh, wait. No, it was Lindsay Sterling.
Okay.
It was the dubstep violinist, and she was with Evanescence.
Cool. Yeah. I just saw Evanescence with Korn.
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah, I remember Korn.
They're great. Another music question. For the next year, you can only listen to 5 albums. You don't have to remember the name of the actual album. You can say Evanescence, for instance. What will be those 5 albums?
It would definitely be one would be Lindsay Sterling. She brings me just a strange sense of peace when I need it. The other one is probably the Little White Rapper NF. When I'm on the treadmill, I love listening to his stuff. It just gets me all riled up. I'm gonna throw in a little dubstep. I'm gonna throw in a little Skrillex. I'm gonna throw that in there. Muse just relaxes my soul. And then some Red Hot Chili Peppers.
There you go.
I want some Red Hot.
All right. So I love the Chili Peppers too. So final question. Please describe what your room looked like growing up.
Oh, okay. We had like this built-in furniture. So my bed was actually like built into the wall. And then we had these cubbies also built into the wall. And I grew so fast that my feet actually grew off of the bed, but I never told my mom. And it wasn't until she came in to check on me when I was like sleeping or something, and she noticed my feet had grown over the edge of the bed. And she's like, I felt like the worst mom in the world because you had outgrown this bed. And I was like, no, I liked it. My feet kind of dangling off. And then I think it was like pink and white wallpaper, which is crazy because I hate the color pink. Yeah, and then this desk that was built in, and then a bookshelf.
Any art on the walls, any posters or anything that you can think of? I mean, yeah, wallpaper, so you have to be really careful. I know I went through that at my house.
I I had a lot of Spice Girls pictures. I cut them all out. I had this incredible obsession with the Spice Girls, and I wanted to be the next Sporty Spice.
Sporty. I was going to ask you which spice. That's fine.
Everybody assumes ginger. No, I wanted to be the next Sporty.
Why would anybody assume ginger?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I had an interaction with Scary Spice when I first moved to LA. We were hanging out and we met, and then she got a call or a text on her phone, and she said, "Oh my God, oh my God!" And I'm like, "What's going on? Something happened?" She goes, "Yeah, Michael Jackson died." So that's how I found out that Michael Jackson died.
Oh,
So,
wow. But you were with Scary Spice.
exactly. So I was fine. Morgan, where can people engage with you, the foundation, anything else that you want to share with the audience?
So it's Danakola Family Foundation. We're on Instagram and Facebook, so you can find us on there. If you message, it's actually me. It's not a million other people. It is me. And we also have DanakolafamilyFoundation.org. And there is a beautiful landing page that you can fill out that also comes directly to me. And that's where you can keep up with all of our socials, our what we're doing. And if you want to find me, I'm on Instagram and Facebook as Morgan DeNicola. I hyphenated my married name, and obviously I will forever be a DeNicola. So I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, but if you find the Family Foundation, you'll also get me.
You know that you just actually inspired me again, because I'm the last male with the May last name, because I have a daughter and I'm only child. So I'm gonna make sure that when she gets married, she hyphens the married name and keeps the May.
And keep it. You keep the legacy going.
Yeah, May's cooler. I agree. And my audience, thank you so much for listening. And don't forget to like and subscribe and all the other stuff. I really love the feedback. So, whatever stars you leave, but leave feedback. If it's something you didn't like, I'd love to learn from those experiences. And, thank you for buying the book, Making Cannabis Personal, on Amazon. So I appreciate that too. And Morgan, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure. And I love what you're doing. And I want more people to actually utilize the gifts that they have received to go and contribute to the world, because we can all uplift each other. As we started this conversation, this whole divide, I think there's a way to kind of put our hands out between the divide and pull each other towards the middle. And you're a big part of doing that. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This was a pleasure.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching and listening. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button, share this episode, and hit that bell. Like, comment. I so appreciate that. And check me out on social under Len May or Len May DNA. Find out more on LinkedIn or lenmaycoaching.com. And remember, everything is personal.